Um, what do Michelle Obama, Serena Williams, and Albert Einstein all have in common?
Well, it's actually pretty wild. Toward the end of his life, Einstein confided in a close friend that he basically saw himself as like an involuntary swindler.
Wow, an involuntary swindler.
Yeah, he was genuinely terrified someone was going to tap him on the shoulder and expose him as a total fraud.
Which is insane, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if the mind that gave us the theory of relativity went to his grave feeling like he was faking it, it really begs a massive question about the rest of us.
It forces us to confront this reality that, most people spend immense amounts of energy trying to hide. We all carry around this lingering suspicion that our successes are just, well, administrative errors.
Yeah, like the gap between the life you project and the life you actually feel equipped to live is eventually just going to swallow you whole.
Exactly.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. We are so glad you are here with us. Today, we have a towering stack of sources waiting for you.
We really do.
Yeah, we're pulling from a mix of academic psychology papers, existential philosophy texts, and some practical therapy workbooks.
It is a great mix.
And our mission today is to explore that uncomfortable gap we just mentioned. We want to map out how you can find genuine meaning and motivation without being, totally crushed by the pressure of it all.
Because that pressure is very real.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the imposter phenomenon, or imposter syndrome as most of us know it.
Right.
The data in our sources says that 70 to 80% of people experience this feeling that their success is just luck. Who are we faking it for? What's happening in our brains here?
So the clinical research outlines something called the imposter cycle. It's essentially this self-sabotaging neurological loop.
Okay, a loop, how does it start?
Well, when you face a new high-stakes task, your brain's threat detection system kicks in. And to manage that massive spike in anxiety, you're driven down one of two behavioral pathways.
Which?
You either massively over-prepare or you go the exact opposite route and completely avoid the task until the last possible second. You procrastinate.
Oh, wow. And the brilliance of that cycle, in a very dark, twisted way, is how it perfectly protects your ego, regardless of which path you take.
Right, because if you over-prepare and succeed, you just refuse to internalize the win.
Yeah, you tell yourself, well, I only survived that presentation because I didn't sleep for 3 days. My competence didn't carry me. My neuroticism did.
Exactly. And if you take the procrastination route, your rationalization is just as protective. You throw something together at the 11th hour, it goes well, and you say, I just got incredibly lucky.
Or like, the standards here must be abysmally low.
Yeah. In both scenarios, the mechanism actively prevents you from updating your internal resume. You just never allow the success to actually count toward your self-worth.
And the sources mention these 5 specific subtypes to show how this manifests, right?
Yeah.
Like the perfectionist, the superhuman.
Yep, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert.
Right. And I have to say, it's like running a marathon but being totally convinced you accidentally took a shortcut, even when you have the bleeding blisters to prove you ran the whole thing.
That is a perfect way to put it.
But wait, isn't a little bit of self-doubt actually good for us? If you never question your own assumptions, you're probably a nightmare to work with.
You've hit on a really crucial counter-narrative in the research there. There's this MIT researcher, Basima Tufik, and her studies show that imposter thoughts actually make us other-oriented.
Other-oriented, meaning what exactly?
Meaning you become highly attuned to other people's feelings. When you feel a deficit in your own authority, your brain overcompensates. You read the room better, you ask for feedback, you actively listen.
Because you're desperately searching for cues on how you're being perceived.
Exactly. And ironically, that makes you vastly more likable and a better collaborator. Adam Grant actually points out that we should use imposter thoughts as fuel rather than a fire that just burns you out.
I love that reframe. But why do we feel this immense pressure to be perfect in the first place? Yeah. Where does that baseline expectation even come from?
To figure that out, we actually have to pivot away from modern workplace psychology and look at a much older, deeper philosophical problem.
Okay, shifting gears to philosophy.
Yeah. This is where we bring in the psychiatrist Irvin Yalom. He operates in existential psychotherapy.
Right.
He argues that our day-to-day anxiety is usually just a symptom of colliding with the 4 ultimate concerns of life, which he lists as death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness.
Jeez. I feel like I need to take a deep breath just hearing those words out loud.
Yeah.
Death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness.
It's heavy stuff. But let's zoom in on freedom for a second. We are completely conditioned to view freedom as the ultimate prize, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But Yellen points out that absolute freedom is actually a terrifying psychological burden.
Because it means you are the undisputed author of your own life. There's no script.
Precisely. You are entirely responsible for your choices. Yalom calls this terrifying realization groundlessness. It's this feeling that there is absolutely nothing solid beneath you.
So what does this all mean? To avoid that vertigo, we just look for someone to hand us a script.
Exactly. And that brings us to the philosopher Martin Heidegger and his concept of Das Man, which translates to the they.
The they, like what they say you should do.
Right. It's the alluring gravity of social conformity. We surrender our freedom to the crowd to escape the burden. We say, well, they say you need to be married by 30, or they say you need to buy a house.
Das Fem sounds like the default settings on a smartphone.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's like it's easy and safe, but totally unoptimized for who you actually are. But I have a question about this.
Sure, go ahead.
Is today's obsession with being the best version of yourself just a modern disguise for Das Men? Like, we live in a culture obsessed with self-help and standing out.
What's fascinating here is
Yes.
the philosophical texts suggest it absolutely is a new disguise.
Really, even the self-optimization stuff.
Yeah, the relentless pressure to wake up at 5 a.m., launch a side hustle, have a perfect morning routine that has just become a new oppressive conformity.
Wow. So we think we're breaking the mold, but we're just following a different set of instructions from the crowd.
Right. And when you finally realize you've let societal norms dictate your choices, you hit what Heidegger and Rollo may call existential guilt.
And how is that different from regular guilt? Like, I didn't do something bad to someone else.
It's not about doing something bad. It's the profound psychological weight of the unlived life. It's realizing you possess unique potentials, and by conforming, you let them atrophy.
That is heavy.
Yeah.
And the brutal paradox here is that whenever you make an authentic choice, you have to mourn the other possibilities you are letting go of.
Yes, the act of choosing is an act of loss.
Right.
Existential guilt and anxiety aren't malfunctions. They are just the friction generated by a mind that is fully awake to its own freedom.
Okay, but if conforming leaves us alienated and absolute freedom gives us existential guilt, how do we actually make the right choices? How do we find the drive to do anything?
Well, this is where we transition into the mechanics of motivation.
Yes, let's talk about self-determination theory, SDT.
Right. Developed by Deci and Ryan. SDT maps out exactly what humans need to function optimally and make authentic choices.
It identifies three basic psychological needs, right? Autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
Exactly. Autonomy is self-direction. Competence is feeling effective or having mastery over your environment.
And relatedness is meaningful social connection. You need all three to grow.
Yes. And SDT spends a lot of time contrasting intrinsic motivation, doing something for pure joy, with extrinsic motivation.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. We always hear that intrinsic motivation is the holy grail. But life isn't just hobbies.
Right, there are chores.
Exactly. What about the things we have to do? Is there a healthy way to do things we don't inherently enjoy?
SDT resolves this with a concept called internalization. Specifically, they talk about identified and integrated regulation.
Okay, break this down for me.
Well, you don't have to enjoy doing your taxes or having a difficult conversation, but you can do it autonomously because you have integrated it into your core values.
So like keeping my business running or saving my relationship.
Precisely. You do the unpleasant task because it serves a value you hold deeply. It's fully integrated into who you are.
That makes total sense. I also noticed the sources briefly note a limitation of SDT, which is that it has a bit of a Western bias.
Yeah, it leans heavily on individualism.
Right, which is exactly why that third need, relatedness, is so crucial. Autonomy doesn't mean you're totally isolated. It means you authentically choose how you connect with your community.
Beautifully said.
So we know we need autonomy, competence, and relatedness. We know we need to align our actions with our values. But what do we physically do when existential dread or imposter syndrome flares up in the moment?
For that, we need to bridge the gap with acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT.
ACT. And how does that differ from, say, traditional CBT?
Well, unlike CBT, ACT doesn't try to change or suppress your painful thoughts. It aims to build psychological flexibility so you can just coexist with the pain.
Okay, so we're not trying to argue with the imposter syndrome.
Nope. You use a key ACT principle called diffusion,
Diffusion.
Yeah, cognitive diffusion. It's about creating distance from your thoughts. Like instead of believing, I am a fraud, you step back and say, I am noticing that my brain is having the thought that I'm a fraud.
It's like watching them float away on clouds. You just let them be there without letting them drive the car.
Exactly. But to know where to steer the car while those thoughts are present, you have to heavily identify your values.
So a goal is like reaching the North Pole. You can check it off a list once you get there.
Right.
But a value is just heading north. You never really achieve north, It just guides your steps.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is spot on. ACT ties this to the concept of committed action.
Taking smart goal steps toward your values.
Right. Yes. Taking those steps while making room for uncomfortable feelings. You don't wait for the anxiety to leave before you start walking north.
You act alongside the fear. And there was this radical diffusion exercise mentioned in Yolam's book that really struck me.
Oh, the disidentification exercise. It's intense.
Yeah. It's where you write down answers to who am I on pieces of paper, like your job, your role as a parent, your traits.
And then you meditate on giving them up one by one. You mentally strip away your constructed identity to face that ultimate fear.
The death anxiety, groundlessness.
Right. But what happens is, by facing that void, you actually find true meaning through engagement. You realize you can survive the abyss, which frees you to live authentically.
Wow. What a journey we've been on today. We started with the surface-level panic of imposter syndrome, traced it down to the heavy existential guilt of our unlived lives.
We really went deep.
We did. And then we found a compass in self-determination theory and learned how to walk the path using the tools of ACT.
It's a lot to process, but it's so empowering.
It really is. So, to you listening, just remember, feeling doubt or existential anxiety isn't a malfunction in your brain.
Not at all.
It is actually proof that you are awake to the beautiful, terrifying freedom of your own life.
That's the perfect takeaway. And actually, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought based on Yalom's work.
Oh, please do.
He talks about this rippling effect regarding death anxiety. And it makes you wonder, what if the ultimate cure to your imposter syndrome and existential dread isn't about proving your own individual worth at all?
What if it isn't about finding your perfect path?
Exactly. What if it's simply about the invisible ripples of kindness, knowledge, and connection that you quietly leave behind in the lives of others?
That is something to truly mull over. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today.
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
We hope it brought you some clarity. See you next time.